Okay. And then we'll do our 3, 2, 1. Going live. Hey, what's up? We're live on YouTube. We are Straight Facts Homie. I'm Mason. There's Walter. There's John. And what do you guys want to talk about? There was something that happened with Patriots and Raiders. I can't put my finger on it. We'll discuss that in just a moment. We're on Facebook and Twitter, obviously on YouTube here. Vimeo is where you can find our shows. We'll do that same spiel in just a minute as we record live for TV right now in a 3, 2, 1. Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, into the one and only Straight Facts Homie, a 60-minute NFL TV show coming your way. I'm Mason Souza. There's Walter Sabina and John Lyons. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are live streaming on YouTube as we do after every Patriots game. With that being said, some chaos, some insanity went down in Patriots and Raiders. We'd like to hear your reaction as we're on YouTube and live on TCAM TV and Vimeo after the fact. You can join our conversation there as well. Without any further ado, let's just get to it. Walter, I want to hear your first opinion. What the hell happened?
So I didn't tune in to much football today. I caught the final 8 minutes of the game, and I saw the Raiders score their final touchdown. Yeah, exactly. I saw pretty much all I needed to see in that final 8 minutes of the game. But the Raiders getting that final touchdown, or excuse me, the second to last touchdown to tie the game originally, and a very questionable call there with the call being confirmed. And when you look at plays being challenged and they look at the plays, the referees look at the plays, if they can't kind of see whether it's solidified a catch or not, they'll just say the call stands. And they confirmed this Raiders touchdown to be a catch, where of course all of us in New England are looking at it, and it looked to us like it was clear that his foot was on the line. But regardless of that, 24-24, the Patriots seem like they're playing for overtime. They're kind of moving the ball downfield. They get the draw play on the final play of the game with 3 seconds left. They're running it, and it seemed like Ramondre Stevenson tried to make a play out of nothing. He pitches it to Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers probably gets the yips and thinks, okay, he's in lateral into me. I got a lateral around, and the score goes out the window. He throws it backwards. Chandler Jones, former Patriot, fan favorite here in New England, picks off the pass, stiff arms Mac Jones to the ground, and returns it for a touchdown. And here I am watching it on my phone, and I'm just in awe. My jaws dropped. It brings me back to, the multiple lateral play in Miami where they, tossed a couple laterals around, and Kenyon Drake runs into the end zone where Gronkowski is playing safety and misses the tackle, and the Miami Dolphins going to win that game. So it's just one of those games where you just have to sit there with your jaw dropped and just, you're in awe of what just happened. And, now that was a year where the Patriots went on to win the Super Bowl, and all was well and fine. But this is a year where the Patriots are fighting for their playoff lives. And yes, they come back from 14 points down 17-3 to tie it and eventually take the lead, 21 answered points. But what the hell happened? You asked me the question, Mason. I'm just throwing it back at what the hell happened in that final sequence there? And we can blame Matt Patricia for the play call, but this is one of those plays like, okay, let's play for overtime. Now you can question now, okay, if you're going to play for overtime, why run a draw play? And then, those guys start laterally. Why not just try throwing a Hail Mary? But, there's so many questions that going around, and we're kind of just several minutes after the final score of the game, and other things you can come back to try to change the outcome. But, we can change one thing or another. But the fact of the matter is the Patriots lose this game 30-24, and they sit at 7-7. And now their playoff hopes are really hanging on the hinges of not only themselves, but other teams now at play. So again, you start the question by saying what the hell happened. I end my take by also asking the question, maybe passing it to John to see what he can say. But what the hell happened?
I'll tell you what happened, Walter. The low point of the post Tom Brady era in New England happened tonight. This is the lowest point since they pushed Tom Brady out the door after the 2019 season, because we're going to talk about that final play. And, you talked about the Miami Miracle. This was the Vegas fiasco, because everything that could have gone wrong, and I wish I could have some alliteration, V word or Raiders, R word, I don't know, but it was just a fiasco. Because let's take a step back from that play, which might be the single worst play in NFL history. Like, that's right up there with Dan Orlovsky running out of bounds for a safety in the back of the end zone in 2008. And sorry, Dan, but that's got to be this is literally one of the worst plays of all time. But let's take a step back. Coming out of the 2-minute warning, Patriots defense had the Raiders facing a 4th and 10. They convert it. They go down the field. And look, I didn't think that was a catch either, but even still, they went right down the field. They got the score. They got the call. They score. Let's go before that. Patriots offense scores 1 touchdown all game against a defense that isn't that good. Let's go to Patriots' second series of the game. They get inside the 5-yard line. They burn 2 timeouts in that sequence. In 4 downs, they burn 2 timeouts. One of them took a touchdown off the board because they completed the pass for a touchdown, but called timeout right before. Then they get to 4th and goal. Mac Jones sneaks it for a touchdown. False start on a guy who wasn't involved in blocking for the touchdown, of course. So they got 2 touchdowns taken off the board in a span of 4 plays. Disgusting. Let's also not forget, because this is a 3-phase game, so you got to, screw up in all 3 phases. They got a punt blocked because they snapped the ball, and most of the guys on the punt team weren't ready. I mean, to me, this was, and we talked last week and the week before about this being a systemic failure on offense. This was a failure from every single person involved in this organization. I mean, you look at offensively, they scored 24 points. They didn't play well. Mac Jones, they went 2 for 13 on 3rd downs. Mac Jones had 13 completions on 31 attempts. Defensively, I know they only gave up 24 points. That's not bad, but they let the Raiders get 5 yards per carry, and they couldn't stop them on a 4th and 10 when they needed it. Special teams, they kicked a couple of field goals, gave up a block punt. I mean, and there's more than that. I'm forgetting things. But to me, this was the low point of the post-Tom Brady era, and it's frustrating to see. It's sad to see, but I think, this is, we got to call this what this is, guys. This is a below average football team at best. And they're just making stupid mistakes left and right, which frankly makes them a bad football team. The only reason I dare say below average is because they have found a way to win 7 games. But I mean, this is one of the worst regular season losses they've had this century. And it's the low point of the post-Tom Brady era.
The optimism from you, John, to call them a below average team. That is some sunshine and rainbows kind of take right there. The dysfunction from this Patriots team makes me gag, makes me want to vomit. And I saw it 3 times. And John, you illustrated them all.
It never used to be this way. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's the worst part. It never, even last year when you didn't have Tom Brady, it wasn't like this.
And Jonathan Vilmer, the color commentary of the Fox broadcast, kept saying that, kept reminding the world, this isn't the Patriots team. But as Patriots fans, we've been seeing this for most of the year, for 80%, 90% of the year, that no, this is the team. They are not on the same page. There's dysfunction all around the corner. And I just go back, and you mentioned it, I want to bring it up again. Goal to go. And of course, that graphic comes up for the Raiders. They allowed 100% of touchdowns when the opponent was inside the 5-yard line with a 1st and goal. And of course, what happens? They burn 2 timeouts. They score 2 touchdowns that get called back, and they settle for a field goal. Just disgusting. Honestly, Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft must be thanking the higher power above that the NFL said, no, you guys suck. We're going to take you out of primetime television so less audience sees that. But then again, that got circulated all across social media. Everyone sees that ending. And I feel bad for someone like Jacoby Myers. He doesn't deserve this. He's a tremendous player. He's probably one of the only few bright spots of the entire 53-man roster. Same with Stevenson. His decision to lateral, those 2 guys have been really the bright spots of this team. They got caught in a tough situation there. And just how the cookie crumbles. Just a bad team gets what they deserve in the end. Just an utter embarrassment and a failure in the end. And John, I think this is the 2nd time in 3 weeks you've called all around ace, and you said systematic failure before, but calling this thing, this organization, this structure, a failure. And we're talking about 20 years of just a masterclass with Tom Brady obviously at the helm, Bill Belichick, and they've come to this, just a unwatchable product. And that's probably what's disgusting most. Why? And I found myself watching at times why would I invest my time to see this? And that is probably the biggest insult that you can give to a team. Why would I waste my time watching this product?
Yeah, I mean, as I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm just looking here at the box score, and we've discussed kind of in weeks past about maybe the only bright spot on this team this season, based on, the way the offense has been called, the personnel and the way they've been used. The only guy that's really has superstar potential and really showed it today was Ramondre Stevenson, who had 172 yards on 19 carries, got into the end zone. Obviously, will, taking the last play out of the equation, he was the only one on the field offensively who had a good day. I mean, you look at your starting quarterback, who this season, go back last season, 22 touchdowns. I think it was 8 interceptions or something like that. Let me bring it up. Oh, sorry, 13 interceptions, but that's fine for a rookie. 22 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. This season, 7 touchdowns, 8 interceptions for a quarterback who you took in the first round 2 years ago. And like I said, 22 touchdowns in his rookie year. I mean, you go back to 2020, Cam Newton had 10 touchdown passes? And you're looking at a guy who's can sit in the pocket and throw the ball downfield if you give him that time and that opportunity. And he's sitting here with 7 touchdown passes and 8 interceptions. It's just so frustrating to look at the box score and see a guy like Mac Jones have 13 completions for 112 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Okay, the Patriots, 32 carries, 200 yards on the ground. You had success there, but it's just there's so much talent on this team. Just looking down the list, yes, you may be overpaying for guys like Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, who combined for 4 catches for 32 yards, and just going down the list. Nelson Aguilar, 1 catch, 3 yards. Kendrick Bourne, just 1 target. Like, what's the point of throwing money at these guys if they're not going to contribute? So the more we go on, and Bill Belichick said a couple weeks ago, like, we're in a situation where we can't change the offense at this point. The offense is what it is, and we just have to maybe improve on it. And in my mind, it's like, okay, now I know that the offense isn't going to get fixed because it's been 12 weeks, 13, 14 weeks of the season, and it still isn't fixed. So this is what we're going to do. If we do limp into the postseason, because that's what it's going to be if we somehow make it, because we need tons of help now, because now we've got Cincinnati, Miami, and Buffalo all on the schedule for the final 3 weeks of the season. And I said 0-5, at worst, or excuse me, at worst 1-4 because we beat Arizona. It's just not looking good. The offense is porous, and even if we do make the playoffs, we're going to get blown out much like we did last year. The defense is overrated. You give up 30 points to a Las Vegas Raiders team. Derek Carr throws 3 touchdowns, 231. An offense that hasn't been that good this season. They've come on the last couple of weeks, led by Josh McDaniels, but I don't know. The Patriots, they find ways to lose games in November, December, normally when Bill Belichick and his staff have this team playing well at this point in the season. And it goes back to, Mason, what you said in the first part. We're looking back. We've got rose-tinted glasses on. We're looking at the Patriots of old. These are the new Patriots. This is what we have to get used to. They play terrible in November, December, and January, and they limp into the playoffs, and they're going to get blown out. This is what we're looking at right now until there's some serious change made, whether it's offensively with the offensive play calling. And I think we can all agree that's probably the main focus point heading into the offseason, despite what regardless of what happens the rest of the season. But that's the main focus. Something needs to change. And like I said, it's got to be on the offensive end. You can build around what the defense is doing because there's something there. They play well from week to week, but when the defense is playing well and you're still just winning games 10-3 or 13-10 or whatever, it's on the offensive side of the ball, and your first-round quarterback who is in his second year is throwing 7 touchdown passes through 15 weeks. You have to change something. It's just disappointing to see the direction the Patriots are heading in right now. I'm not a fan of it. I don't. Again, change the offense, change something. We'll get through the rest of this year. I'm ready to kind of pack my bags with this season because I don't see. I can't be optimistic the rest of the season with the schedule we have moving forward.
Yeah, and Jacoby Myers, for the record, did come out after the game and say that final play was on him for quote trying to be a hero. And yeah, it was a massive fit. But I think that even speaks to, like, I called this a systemic failure a couple of weeks ago because, look, I think Matt Patricia, we can agree, has not done a good job. Okay, but it's like even when he calls a good play, Hunter Henry was open for a first down and had a pass hit off his hands today. Mac Jones played bad, including a big miss of Tyquan Thornton down the seam, right? Like even when he calls good plays, they can't execute them. And even when he calls a good play and they execute it, it's pretty rare for them to do it 2 or 3 times in a row. And we saw it today that their 1 touchdown drive, they executed 2 plays really well in a row. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here. I can't think of another point in the game where they had back-to-back plays and I was like, oh, those are both really good plays. Maybe a handful of times, but that's the thing. It's like they cannot coach well, play well on a consistent basis. If I was a defensive player on this team, I would be pissed. Like, those guys come out every week. They play their balls off. They play for the most part well. This is a top 10 defense in points allowed. and this is what you deal with. I mean, look, we're going to have a postseason show. I get it. So I don't have to go through it all now, but 1st and 10 on the 50 in overtime in Green Bay. You can't get one first down to get in the field goal range to win. Down 31-26 against Baltimore. You have the ball twice at home. You turn it over both times. Right? Like this stuff, it adds up. Over to Minnesota, right? Yeah, okay, Minnesota's playing well. You're having trouble stopping Justin Jefferson. You get them on the ropes a little bit, and then you give up a kickoff return touchdown, and you stop moving the ball in the fourth quarter offensively there. I mean, the defense has scored more defensive touchdowns than any other team in the league this year. That's a big reason why they have 7 wins. Like that, to me, if I was, as a fan, I'm frustrated. If I was a defensive player on this team, I would be really upset because the special teams consistently let you down. Outside of the Marcus Jones punt return against the Jets, which, yes, won them the game. But the special teams has let them down at multiple points this year, and the offense has let them down. I mean, how many times, guys, think about this, can we say the offense played 60 minutes of good football this year? I'd say the Cleveland game. The Cleveland game is probably the only time. But so we're talking literally one time in 14. Because again, Minnesota, they played 45 minutes of good football. Baltimore, they played 40 minutes of good offensive football. Green Bay, they played 30. Like they can string together a quarter or two. I really can think of one time all year they played 60 minutes of good offensive football. It's unacceptable.
This is John Lyons. This is Walter Sabina. I'm Mason Souza. We are Straight Facts Only, reacting to the Patriots falling to 7-7 and falling over themselves, in Vegas, with their playoff hopes falling very, very fast. John, it's an excellent point. Like we talked about it multiple times this year about other teams like the Denver Broncos, for example. The defense has been borderline elite, but their offense can't do a thing. They one of the lowest scoring offenses in the last decade. The New York Jets, Sauce Gardner on the sidelines, like, wow, it's great to kind of relax with Mike White in the game because Zach Wilson blows. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but yeah, is someone like even Devin McCourty, who, I don't know, maybe he, has a foot out the door, not to assume that he's taking plays off or anything. Maybe this is his last year. Someone like Matthew Judon, who's having a defensive player of the year, season. Like, what are we doing? What you guys just blew this, and you've blown it multiple times this year.
You guys, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. I think the defense has played well enough for them to have 9 wins right now, maybe 10. Like realistically, I think the defense, because look, the Baltimore game, the defense didn't play well. They still had a shot to win that game, but the defense played well enough to win week 1 against Miami, played well enough to beat Green Bay, played well enough. Again, even with the 4th and 10 failure and some of that, probably played well enough for you to win today, played well enough for you to beat Buffalo on Thursday night a couple weeks ago. Like, this defense has played well enough for you to have 9 or 10, at least 9, maybe 10 wins already.
We can go around one more time, couple minutes, but go ahead, Walter.
Yeah, no, I'm here looking at the schedule, and I'm looking at, you look at these playoff teams and kind of like what is your best win of the season? What kind of solidifies you as a playoff team? And like, can you legitimately go down the schedule of the Patriots wins this season and be like, that's a good win? Because I mean, I'm looking at it and all the marquee teams, even going back to Green Bay in week 4. At the time, we didn't know who they were, even though they weren't in the position they are in now, where we went to overtime with them, and Aaron Rodgers, we all thought was still Aaron Rodgers. You could have got a marquee win there in overtime, and you end up losing that game. Your best win of the season is what? Detroit, where you started Bailey Zappi at home and won 29-0, where both sides of the ball actually probably played well. Yeah. And like, again, that may be another game too, where you probably played 60 minutes of good football, pitched a 29-0 shutout. But there's, when the Detroit Lions are your best win of the season, you can't really look at your record at 7-7 and say, hey, we're going to make some noise in the playoffs, especially after kind of what happened today in the Las Vegas Raiders game. So, you just kind of hang your hat on hoping, getting a spark. And it's cliche to say, but something's got to come into them. Maybe that this whole thing that happened today is that spark that says, what do we want to be as a Patriots team? We know we're not world beaters. Let's see what we can do against the Cincinnati, Buffalo, and Miami the final couple weeks of the season. We would call it limping into the playoffs. Let's say they lose 2 and win 1, whatever. I don't even know if they make the playoffs, but so they somehow limp in. You know what? It's a chance. It's an opportunity, but I'm not optimistic of them even kind of getting anywhere near that. But again, just going back down the schedule, you looking for 60 minutes of good football, John, and it could be that Cleveland Browns game, or it could be that Detroit Lions games that we looked at, and I've said in the last couple shows that kind of like false narratives where we looked at those teams or those games and said, this is now the spark. Okay, they won those 2 games. They lost to the Bears on Monday night. Then they won 3 in a row. They won 5 of 6. Those are games that you look at and say, this is what we build off of. The defense played really well. The offense is coming together. And then now you look at the last 4 weeks, we've lost 3 of 4 when we're in a playoff hunt. So the just things aren't going the way we've wanted them to. And we've been talking about it since back in training camp before we kind of even came on the air with the show this season. So I don't know, just everything's kind of going the way we wanted to, even though we tried to remain cautiously optimistic that things would work out. We'll finish with 10 wins, 11 wins. We'll get into the playoffs. Maybe at best case scenario, get a win and lose the divisional round. But after seeing what's going on with your starting quarterbacks throwing for 112 yards on 13 completions, you're still failing on third down, 2 for 13 on third down. Your defense is playing well. And like you said, frustration from the defensive side of the ball. If you're looking at the offense, like what the hell's going on? And it's you hate to throw away years, but I think this is one of those years you just got to kind of pack it up, finish strong, see what happens, and then make your moves in the offseason and hang your hat on the 2023, 2024 season. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at this point.
Yeah, I called this the low point of the Tom Brady era earlier, and this is one of the most frustrated I've ever been as a Patriots fan. I look at 2009 when they were really a fraud 10-6 team and got smoked in the playoffs, and there was all that tension around them. 2000, they went 5-11. Like 2019, when you kind of feel like Brady was on his way out at the end. I mean, this is a real, to me, not only is this the low point of the post-Tom Brady era, this to me truly should be a wake-up call for the entire organization going forward, because we've sat here and talked about they got to change offensive play callers or special teams coaches. They got to invest better in certain weapons around Mac Jones. They got to do this. They got to do that. This loss encapsulates all that stuff into one game. Like, I think you walk away from this, and I maintain this. If they win out by some miracle and they make the playoffs, they go 10-7, I still think there should be big changes after this season, because that's fool's gold and it's not good enough to be a true contender long term. And I want to be clear, I don't think they're going to win out. I'd be very surprised. But I'm saying even if they do, I still think this has been so frustrating and so inconsistent that there would still need to be major changes after this year. And I think, Walter, to your point, I think right now, I agree. You just want the Patriots to try to finish strong so they have something going into next year. And did we really think year 3, post Tom Brady, with a guy who was a borderline rookie of the year candidate at quarterback last year, that we'd be saying, oh, let's just finish strong for next year at this point? Like that, to me, that in itself, that's an indictment of where you're at.
I understand they're 500, 7-7. If you look at all 32 teams, yes, you look at like the Houston Texans are 1-11-1 or whatever the case may be. Like there are much worse teams record-wise. But if you see, and you guys have illustrated this perfectly, we've been doing it all season long, how just wildly inconsistent, dysfunctional, it just doesn't look right, and there's no changes. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. And they've been doing that all year long, expecting something else, but we've seen dysfunction. If I will end with this, if this was any other head coach besides Bill Belichick, heads would roll. People would be fired. And that comes Black Friday. I don't think Robert Kraft has the ability or, the wherewithal or even just the means to do that to Bill Belichick. But we talked about it and we've beat around the bush. His job should be in question. I'm talking about Bill Belichick's job should be in question at the end of this season. Well, that was fun. That was the Patriots and Raiders week 15 as they fall to 7-7. We got a lot more to get to. Thank you for watching on YouTube Live, as we do after every Patriots game. But there was other wacky games that happened in week 15. We'll react to them now in the second quarter of Straight Facts Only. Thanks for watching on YouTube. Good luck, everybody, with the rest of the season. Talk to you next week.